Spider-Man.
Never has a franchise needed a movie to succeed quite as badly as Marvel right now.
Yeah, they
After
do.
years of brand dilution and box office failures that all culminated in the unholy trilogy of disappointment last year, the modern MCU is the movie equivalent of an aging pop star desperately trying to reinvent themselves before middle age makes them completely irrelevant. And
Yep.
they're not the only ones in trouble. With James Gunn's DCU by James Gunn rapidly turning into a critical and commercial disaster, the viability of superhero movies themselves is now looking pretty shaky. In short, Spider-Man Brand New Day needs to succeed. It needs to set the stage for Avengers Doomsday later in the year.
I think it did succeed. It's been doing very well.
It needs to prove that Marvel can move past the malaise that's gripped them since Endgame, and it needs to prove that there's still an appetite for superhero flicks. So with all that being...
And you know why? Because people know who Spider-Man is. Like, I don't think Marvel I think underplays how important it is that they have these characters that have generational level appeal.
It's
massive.
What's it actually like? Does it succeed in its aims? Does it live up to the crazy expectations resting on it? And most importantly of all, is it worth your time and money? Well... Oh, go on then. Since I'm feeling generous, I'll give Brand New Day a thumbs up. I mean,
Alright.
it's a slightly reluctant thumbs up for sure, and it comes with a few caveats, namely the bloated cast, some questionable choices with the antagonist, and a plot that takes a bit too long to get moving and undercuts some of the stakes of the previous film. But
Yeah.
for the most part, it's a pretty fun movie that kept me mostly entertained for a couple of hours.
I think that's all movies need to be. They don't always have to be an art project. They don't always have to have a great message. If you want to make a superhero movie, just make it entertaining, make it a good distraction, make it fun to watch.
I'm going to give you a
That's all
rundown
you
of the
gotta
plot,
do.
and it's kind of
It's not
difficult
hard.
to discuss without getting into a few spoilers, so if you really don't want to know anything about Brand New Day, consider yourselves warned.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the movie picks up with a very lonely Peter still pining for MJ and Ned after they forgot about his existence at the end of the last movie. He still keeps tabs on them as they move on with their lives over the next few years,
Damn.
while throwing himself into crime fighting as Spider-Man and becoming a hero in New York City. Shit gets real though when a new threat emerges that can psychically possess anyone in the vicinity and uses them to attack a government facility called Damage Control. But what are they really looking for? And why is Peter the only one who can resist them? Looking for answers, he makes contact with Yelena. Oh yeah, they're still trying to make her a thing in this movie. Who points him towards suspiciously nice government guy who claims to have no idea why the psychic terrorist is attacking Damage Control. I wonder if he might be hiding something here.
Yeah.
Anyway, with a bit of help from Bruce Banner, Peter develops an inhibitor unit that can suppress the psychic powers. All he needs to do is find the terrorist and stick it on her neck, and she'll be helpless. Unfortunately, she gets wind of this and possesses Bruce, turns him into the Hulk, and uses him to beat the shit out of Peter while she raids Damage Control in person. See, it turns out the terrorist in question is in fact Jean Grey, in possibly the worst kept secret in entertainment.
What?
Oh man! Oh god! Oh man!
And she's out to find her sister Sarah, who was taken captive and experimented on by Damage Control. But can Peter team up with the Punisher to stop her? Can he find a way to reconcile with MJ and Ned? And even if he can, whose side should he really be on here? Now, as you've probably guessed, there's quite a lot going on in Brand New Day, and if I was a cynical man instead of the chirpy, optimistic soul you see before you, I'd say the movie's been asked to do a lot of heavy lifting for Avengers Doomsday, setting up characters and factions that are going to be very important going forwards. This is the movie that definitively establishes the mutants as we know them from the X-Men, and the persecution and exploitation they're going to face at the hands of regular humans.
And by the way, the women are always saving the men around here. You might want to think about changing the name to X-Women.
Fuck off. It's such a lovely pair of words.
And right here we have Jean Grey as Ground Zero. And I guess she's as good a place as any to start with my criticisms, because for me,
Karen.
she's one of the weaker aspects
Yeah.
of the film. Not because of the actress or anything. Sadie Sink isn't exactly an Oscar winner. She doesn't have the gravitas and range that Famke Janssen had back in the 2000s, but holy shit, she's a million times better than Sophie Turner, and she does a pretty decent job here. No, the bigger problem with the character is the writing.
Yeah.
She's not portrayed as an anti-hero or a conflicted but fundamentally decent person who occasionally does bad things for good reasons. She's just an out-and-out villain in this movie.
Oh, wow.
She has absolutely no problem violating and mind-raping dozens, if not hundreds of people. She straight up murders innocent civilians without a care in the world. She tries to kill MJ just to keep Peter busy for a while, and she
Damn.
forcibly possesses half of New York City in the finale. She's written more like Magneto than Jean Grey, and what's weird is that she never really answers for the things she's done. She just kind of leaves, and I get the impression the film itself doesn't really view her as bad or morally wrong. That seems to be a bit of a theme with the MCU.
You've taken an entire town hostage.
I'm not the one with the guns, Director.
She's holding thousands of people hostage.
And it could have been thousands more if she hadn't put up her own quarantine.
They'll never know what you sacrificed for them.
Hey, fuck off.
I also couldn't help but
I think that the weird, misunderstood anti-hero that ends up doing bad things to people as a net negative is kind of exhausting for a lot of people. I think a lot of people are tired of that archetype.
question her methodology here. I mean, instead of going through all the convoluted bullshit of staging raids on damage control facilities and potentially getting dozens of innocent civilians killed, why not just target suspiciously nice government man when he's alone and vulnerable, mind rape him to find out what happened to your sister, and potentially even use him to infiltrate the facility and get her back? I mean, it would have made the movie about 20 minutes long, but, you know, these are questions that you can't help but ask yourself. As I said earlier, there's also a problem with cast bloat. Yelena's probably the most glaring example. She's just there to tell Peter things he could have easily figured out for himself. Their scenes take forever and they feel stilted and awkward as fuck. But I'd argue that Ned and MJ are kind of pointless as well. Bringing them back when Peter was forced to say goodbye to them in the last movie really undercuts the pathos of that film's ending. But if you really have to bring them back, then fucking do something meaningful with them. As it stands, they're kept in a holding pattern for most of the film, and by the end, Peter's in basically the same situation he was in at the start. They still don't remember him, and it's obvious he can't get back what he once had. I mean, there's at least a decent scene where he confesses the truth to MJ, and she quietly admits that she's not the same person he remembers, and I think it's handled pretty well, but it's not enough to justify their inclusion in this film. There's also a subplot about Peter's spider abilities becoming more dominant and his struggles to contain the power, and yeah, I get how it sort of ties in with Jean's abilities as a mutant, but it feels like a bit of a reach thematically, and the script doesn't seem to know what to do with it. It just kind of stops being an issue when the plot needs it to go away.
I think that
this criticism.
I think one of the big issues is that a lot of movies now have this obsession with adding unnecessary shades of gray or complexity to things that are pretty one-dimensional and pretty like either good or bad. And I think that that's exhausting for an average person to deal with. I think a lot of people like the, you know, moral simplicity of something like Lord of the Rings, or I don't know, like fucking I could come up with 50, like Thor, like the first movies, like Captain America 1, right? People like having, they don't like having to worry about who they're rooting for. People that watch superhero movies go to watch superhero movies to turn their brain off. They want to turn their brain off, and they just want to watch the guy with the cape beat the shit out of the bad guy. Okay, that's it. They're popcorn. Yes, exactly. It doesn't have to be this like Game of Thrones level situation.
Probably makes it sound like I'm shitting on the film, but it's more because I can see the potential in what it's trying to do on a writing level. There's a lot of interesting ideas at play here, it just doesn't quite tie them all together properly. On the plus side, the action and fight choreography is all top-notch, the emotional tone is generally pitched right with a bit of humour and optimism at the appropriate moments. It's nice to see Spider-Man tackling lower-level stuff in New York City instead of big world-ending events like he's in a mini Avengers flick, and Tom Holland proves that age is no barrier to playing Peter Parker. Yeah, he's not quite the golly gee whiz teenager he was in Homecoming. He's older now and carrying a few more burdens than before, but he's still got the right combination of responsibility and playfulness, and he genuinely looks like he wants to be there. And he sparks pretty well off John Bernthal as the Punisher. Yeah, it's very much a family-friendly version of the character now, and it's kind of wild when I think about the insanely violent shit that Bernthal's done as this guy over the years, but I think they make for a pretty good contrast together. Ultimately, despite a few flaws on the writing side, Brand New Day is a
I love The
safe,
Punisher.
solid kind of movie that gets the job done without the same energy and novelty of Homecoming or the emotional gut punch of No Way Home, but instead delivers 2 hours of reliable entertainment with everyone's friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. And if the box
That's
office
all it has
projections
to
are
be.
anything to go by, well, maybe there is still life in the MCU yet. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Go away now.
I think the MCU is going to be popular based off of what they're releasing. If they're releasing a new Spider-Man movie and it has the Hulk in it and the Punisher, let me link you guys the video. I'm a big fan of, obviously, you know, Critical Drinker. I've watched him forever. So, yeah, I mean, like, fuck off till next time. Yes, until next time I'll look at it. And, yeah, no way, really? Yeah, sure, about this. They've been nailing the new castings. Let me see if I can find it. Then we're going to play Beast of Reincarnation. I want to try that out and see what it is. Because I don't know really how it's going to be. I've heard some things that are, yeah, this is... The casting of Marvel Studios' X-Men so far, that's good. That's, you know what? That's actually good. You know what? Good call. Definitely a good call. Wow. We need a lot more of these. I mean, this looks like a Spider-Man movie, I'll tell you that. Wait. My car has that too.
You okay, kid? Yeah, you're okay. See you later.
Quit your whimpering.
You can't just shoot yourself out of every situation. Innocent people get hurt.
What do you think's downrange to that tank, dum-dum? Suit yourself.
Go home, Frank.
Oh, man. I do hope this is good. I love The Punisher. The Punisher is probably my... I mean, it's really kind of goes... There's no surprise, right? But, like, Punisher is one of my favorite superheroes, if not my favorite one, right? And I'm tired, boss. You don't like it? I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was fine, right? I mean, like, I don't know. Like, I think that people watch superhero movies and they start expecting too much or, like, wanting it to be some kind of crazy next level, you know, thing. I don't think you really need to do that, right? You definitely don't need to do that. I'm so glad they kept using John Barnathal. Yeah, why does it not look good? I don't know, man. I think it's not that bad, man. It's really not.